Hi, Dr. Serelda.
Hi, I'm so well.
So glad to see you.
Finally put a face with the name. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm so happy that you decided to sit down with myself.
Thank you.
And PW Perspective. You are a local here in Prince William County.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm just glad that you decided you would sit down and talk to us.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, of course I'm doing a spotlight on individuals here in our community during Black History Month. Just to kind of talk about the different things that you're into, how you're changing our community, the things you're offering to our community. And for me, I know that you are an entrepreneur. I jokingly say that you're a serial entrepreneur, but you're an entrepreneur nonetheless, and a veteran, and a minister. You got all these things. So, come on, let's talk about it. Tell the audience, those that are watching this, a little bit about Dr. Herbin, Dr. Serelda Herbin. Please tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, well again, thank you for the opportunity and definitely for Prince William for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about myself during Black History Month. I'm excited, always excited in February because it gives us an opportunity to reflect.
Yes.
We can reflect every day,
Yeah.
but it gives us an opportunity to stop in this space and reflect for a month and learn more about our own heritage. We think we know everything, but we don't.
That's right.
There's so many of us in the
Yeah.
world. We don't know everything about everybody. But what I will say to you is I am from Louisiana,
Okay.
born and raised. I graduated from Grambling State University, HBCU, yay! Historically Black College and University for those who don't know.
Yes.
I got my master's from Webster University in Business Administration, and then Regent University, my doctorate in Strategic Leadership and Leadership Coaching. And so during that time, when I was getting my doctorate degree, my department head said, what are you going to do? Are you going to write a book? Are you going to do a manuscript for a curriculum? Are you going to do a seminar? I said, well, you know, everybody that gets a doctorate, they really write a book.
Sure.
And she said, well, if you're going to do this for at-risk youth, which I was one, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute, but for at-risk youth, they don't like to read.
Yeah.
Middle school to high school, they don't like to read. Like, they don't like to read for stuff for school, let alone a regular book that you're going to buy from Barnes & Noble. So I said, okay, well, I'll do a curriculum. So I wrote an 8-module training program for at-risk youth. And she said, well, you can always write a book. You have 8 books within an 8-module training program, so you'll never run out of content. And so for me, it was so exhilarating and liberating to actually write my first book in 30 days.
No way.
30 days.
And
I said, I had a friend, he said, take my class, I promise you you'll get something out of it. I may get an outline out of it,
Sure.
but I'm absolutely not gonna write a book in 30 days. And I wrote that book in 24 days, my first book, and it was a bestseller.
Wow.
It was a bestseller.
I feel like I have done nothing with my life at this point.
Absolutely, you are the queen.
30 days, less than 30 days.
Yes, ma'am.
You've written this book.
I was so afraid though, because being in the military as a Black woman, or as a woman who happens to be Black,
Yeah.
and a woman who happens to be an officer,
Yes.
who happens to be Black, I think a lot of times when we use descriptors, we put them in the wrong places. I'm not a Black officer. I'm an officer who happens to be Black.
I like that.
I'm not a Black diversity director. I'm a director who happens to be Black, who happens to be a woman.
Yeah.
And so in the military, there was always these stigmas about Black officers not being able to write or read.
No way.
From historically Black colleges and university, absolutely. And so I said, you know what, I came from this small town, I can't write a book. I got a little bit into the book, chapter 2, chapter 3, and I just stopped writing. And I would cry and cry and cry and cry, like, I can't do this, I'm not capable. I'm from a small town, and of course, as you mentioned earlier, I do have a spiritual connection with God. That is who I am, my center. And I said, God said, you can do anything. You can do anything, just do it. When I started to write, I did not realize how much therapy writing brought to me. And so for me, when we talk about health, in the Black community, it is so very important to find your outlet.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
So writing has become part of your, I guess your tools, right? Your outlet tools, right?
Yes.
I'm sure you have many others. But the importance of writing, has that always been your passion, or is that something that just you stumbled on?
I think school and academics have always been second nature to me.
Sure.
Now, growing up, I lived with my grandmother from age 3. And so when she died when I was in the 11th grade, I stayed with 7 different families between 11th and 12th grade.
Wow.
And so school came very easily to me. And so between 11th and 12th grade, I was like, okay, I'm probably gonna flunk out of school. I'm not gonna do anything. My grandmother was my lifeline. And so really, to be honest, for me, I said, okay, I guess I'm gonna die too. It wasn't suicidal thoughts. It was just, the person that took care of me is gone. I'm 16 years old, right? And so I am sitting here like, how am I gonna die? I'm gonna get hit by a bus. I'm just gonna drink something that is poison. And I didn't. And
it's your childlike mind.
Absolutely.
Right? Your childlike mind is processing this the best way you know how.
Yes. And so for me, it was so exhilarating to be able to write a book, to come on the other side of it, and then be able to tell the story. It's been so powerful to some people. They would pick the book up and say, I love this book, but I'm telling you, I can't finish it today because you touched areas that I thought was dead and you woke them up. So I know that what I'm doing has been powerful to others and to me as well.
Yeah, so now I know that it's not just one book. Because I heard you say that the instructor said you have at least 8. So
not that many.
How many books have you authored?
I have authored 3 books. I am getting ready to release another one this year. As a matter of fact, I released one yesterday in a collaboration with 365 authors that's called Joy in the Morning and Joy Restoration, a journal and a book.
How in the world do you get 300 plus authors in one book? Is that like one line? How does that
It's
happen?
an anthology where people talked about joy in their way and joy with their testimonies and their experiences. And so she started in July of last year and we published it 2 days ago. Wow. She put it on Amazon and overnight we were a bestseller.
No way.
And so it has been an amazing experience. My son, when he was 16 years old, he attended Colgan High School. He's now a junior at LSU.
Okay.
He wrote a book. His best friend committed suicide. And he called him and said, hey, I'm gonna off myself. And my son said, you're not gonna do that. 3 days later, it's like, where is, and I won't, for the sake of his name, I'll say John. Nobody's seen John, and finally he asked somebody, he said he killed himself. And he could not get himself together. He thought it was his fault. For a long time, he had survivor's remorse from the text message that he got from his friend. So from then he became so hypersensitive, he actually wrote an essay and got 100 on this essay. I said, you've got to publish this. So he published the book. And then my daughter likes interior decorating, so she published a journal.
Wow.
So I want to encourage them to find ways as outlets because mental health is so important.
Yes.
And it falls on people in different ways depending on how life's in your life.
Because life be life and
life be life.
life be life. So speaking of that, like just the mental health, like in our community, right? What are your thoughts on the importance of mental health care in the Black community?
It is so important. I think I will start by saying we have got to stop the stigma. We've got to stop the stigma that therapy is something that is designed for you to be a weak person. Seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist is weak. Actually, it's weak to not go.
Absolutely.
I've seen a behavioral health counselor, I've seen a psychiatrist, I've seen a psychologist. I will give you an example of one of the things that I thought would take me out. In 2009, at the time, my husband and I deployed to Iraq. September of 2009, he deployed. February of 2010, I deployed. My daughter was almost 2 years old when I left. I was still breastfeeding when I left to go downrange, and we went at the same time to Iraq. So when we were there, in our minds, we had to block the kids out, we had to block the family out, because every day we're walking around with weapons that were live, with live rounds in them. And we both said, well, one of us should go back first. Whoever gets to go back first gets to go back first, because our kids could be without parents. She was almost 2, he was 5. So when we got back, she didn't know me. For 2 weeks, she would not come to me. My sister looks a lot like me, and she stayed 2 extra weeks. So mental health is extremely important, having to block out things, compartmentalize things, and especially in the military. Once I retired from the military, I realized that my mind was trained to move very fast. And once it stopped and idled out, I had to actually face what are you going to do with all this stuff?
Yeah.
You can't say, I got to go and fight, I got to go and train to fight, I got to go to war, I got to come back from war. And your mind slows down and you don't know what to do with all of that.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, that's big, and I totally agree. I think that mental health care in our community, and in all communities, is super important.
Yes.
But breaking the stigma in our community is something that we have to continue to
Gotta break
undo.
the
Like, we
stigma.
have to undo the doing.
Yeah.
You know, we have to be able to normalize going to get therapy. Because, you know, when we look at our ancestors, they had each other.
That's right.
And in our communities now...
And they cared about each other.
And they cared about each other. In our communities now, we're so separated and so far apart, we don't always have each other. There are a lot of people now that are so isolated and are struggling. So I think we do have to normalize. I'm thankful that we have, you know, like apps for mental health care.
Absolutely.
People can just get it out. So thank you for sharing that. And again, I want to pivot a little bit about you being here in Prince William County.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know that after retirement, you remain super busy in this community. Why here? Why now?
So being a military person, my first answer is because the Army told me to.
Sure.
That's my first answer. But after I retired, I was still working. My kids were still in school, so we vowed to keep them still so that they could have a level of stability, because the military will move you around so much. They never get a chance to plant and make friends and go and stabilize their community, their ecosystem. It's been rocked the entire time they've been alive because they're military children. So I vowed that once I got out, I would stabilize them. So that was the main focus of us being here. After, you know, my son has graduated, gone to LSU. My daughter is 10th grade. She's looking to go and get a soccer scholarship to go to school. 2.5 years, but I'm not counting. I'm not counting. But I was stabilized here because after the military, I was hired back at the Pentagon as a government civilian. And so my work in the Pentagon was at the Secretary of the Army's Office for Diversity and Leadership. And so I got a chance to write policy for the Army in terms of diversity. And from there, I had a short-term goal. I retired at 40. So I'm like, I think I got a little more work to do. I'm not ready to go to the island and super young. And so I'm like, well, I can't retire and draw pension, so let me go back in. And I wanted to start a business. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and it had to be something around elevating other people. And so what I landed in is Coaching That Cares.
Yeah, look at that.
And so I created this business called Coaching That Cares. I'm getting my government certifications, and then the government hires me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do both. I gotta make a choice. Talk to my mentors, just like, just go in, you know, build your money up, and when you're ready to go, just go, just launch. So I have been dabbling with my small business and helping people pro bono and paid clients, just elevating their mindsets, because I know how it felt when I left the military. The military trains us to do what we're told.
Yeah, look at that.
You leave the military and nobody's telling you what to do. And so if you're not able to have the resilience to switch your mind, you're stuck. You're like, literally as adults, you're stuck like, what am I supposed to do next? And so I saw that in people that were higher ranking than I, that reached out to me, because I didn't have a problem saying, well, I had to get out of the military. I wasn't promoted to the next grade. I had 6 months to get out, and I had already gotten my doctorate degree. Some people aren't positioning. So I was positioning and did not know it. God told me to go get this doctorate. I was happy with a master's in business administration. It was always my goal. I'm a very structured person. I like order. I like, you know, structure, seeing things in place. And so I always dreamed of having my master's in business administration, but I never had any intentions of getting a doctorate degree. And I was going to get this doctorate degree in theology. And some of my mentors said, okay, you're a minister, you were in the Miss America circuit, you write well, you speak well, you train, you teach, people are drawn to your energy, you have a disarming spirit, you're a miracle networker, you're a connector. So they're talking about all these things, and then you go into just theology. I'm like, why do you have to say just theology? You know, and so I decided on, and I went to Regent University, it's a Christian university. And I decided to get my doctorate in strategic leadership, which encompasses all of that, with a concentration in leadership coaching.
Wow.
And so anytime I'm sitting down, I'm always teaching. I'm like, listen, and Chat GPT and AI, I'm like a kid in the candy store. People are like, it's not yours. I said, you have to give Chat GPT what you want it to say, but it can't say anything other than what you're telling it.
Absolutely.
So you're not plagiarizing, it's your thought.
Yeah.
It's like a kid in the candy store.
Yes. I must admit, I've enjoyed learning more about it.
AI is not going anywhere. We may go somewhere, but AI is not. So, and I know you didn't ask me that.
It's okay. So speaking of, like, you know, you going to school, getting your doctorate, you're in the space of coaching, just bring it back a little bit, because you're coaching and empowering women as well.
Yes.
And of course, many of us are leaders, but in our homes and in our lives, we still need that support.
Yes.
And you're doing that as well. And I know that even on social media, you take up space, right? You're taking up space.
That's a good way to put it.
Of course. You're taking up space on social media. You're encouraging, you're empowering, you're putting information out there for us to chew on and for us to you know, take a pause and read and you know, we soak it up. One, I appreciate that. And it was brought to me today that you even posted something today about empathy.
Yes.
And which is, again, these are all the things that I love to talk about. But again, why is empathy important? What is that about?
You know, I told the guy before we started our interview I was going to pull it out and make sure I quoted myself today. Some of the things that I posted today were the 20 reasons empathy is an essential competency, and I'll just go over a few of them. It brings innovation. You know, if you're talking about an organization, customer satisfaction, because if you are connecting, that's the key to anything. Empathy.
And that's in any relationship.
Any relationship. Empathy is so very important. In my job, one of my admirals, I work for the Navy, and he said, we have a communications problem in this organization. I said, no, we don't. We've got policies, we've got regulations, we've got email, we've got text, we've got Teams, we got Zoom. We do not have a communications problem. We have a connection problem.
Wow.
All of these sources of information and data, and they never come together. So if you're sitting in your cubicle next to someone you've never talked to, it's not that you lack the information to go talk to them, you just choose not to connect. And so when you're talking about being empathetic to people, you never know what someone else is going through. Someone inboxed me just today on Facebook. I posted a piece on separating. Excuse me. And when I posted it, she inboxed me and said, thank you so much, because I've been dealing with, she said, I've been dealing with harming myself. And it hit me because I'm like, okay, I'm going into this mode of trying to protect and be the combat veteran and the commander, and I want to protect her, but she's so far away because she's behind a computer screen. And I'm getting a little choked up because it really touches me in ways, because I never want to see anybody perish.
Absolutely.
I never want to see anybody perish. So empathy is so very important.
Okay, you guys tell us, like, number 9. Just calling out one.
Number 9, let's see. Number 9 is cultural competency.
Oh, that's super important too.
Cultural competency.
Yeah, we have to teach that.
You have to teach it, because everybody has a different culture. Even in organizations, you have subcultures. Even in Prince William County, you have subcultures. Depending on where you live, the way that you are brought up, the way that you are groomed. I was telling somebody one day when we were talking about financial literacy, I can't focus on investing if I have to pay a light bill.
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
That's not even in my repertoire, my language literacy.
Can't even think about it.
So our cultures in a conversation could be totally different, could go completely over my head. I didn't know, for example, I'm just throwing this out there, I had no idea that insurance was a form of a multiple stream of income, a second stream of income. I didn't grow up that way. I grew up, the guy came to my granny's house, we got that little paper off the side of the wall, she paid him, and he left. That was it for insurance. So I never grew up with some of these things, and that's why being empathetic, connecting with people, understanding that cultural competency is extremely important. Just because you're not like me and you don't have my lived experience does not mean we can't connect.
That's right.
And we keep so many divisions with so much civil unrest going on today. We keep so many divisions between us when we're so much alike, and we can be better together.
Absolutely. You said a mouthful, and that's right. That's true. I gotta go one more just because we had 20, so let's go number 16.
Number 16, creativity.
Wow.
Creativity.
Creativity. I definitely want to know your thoughts on creativity.
Okay, so hot off the press, I should have just brought you a little swag bag. In March, April timeframe, I will be releasing Married to My Purpose.
Ooh, we can
Married
use that.
to My
Yeah,
Purpose.
we can use that.
And it's not about a wedding,
Yeah.
but I was mentioning it to a confidant the other day, and he said, you have to propose to your purpose. I said, what? I didn't think about the proposal part. I went straight to marriage. She said, you got to propose to your purpose first. This is going to be your partner. You have to settle in yourself first before you can connect to any partner.
Yeah.
And it's amazing if we peel the onion back on a real live marriage, if both parties are not settled, and this is not for marriage counseling, okay? This is not what this is. But if both parties are not settled and somewhere it shifts, you're no longer married to someone else because you're not married to yourself first. So I'm releasing Married to My Purpose, and I have a daughter.
Yeah.
My daughter is about to be 16 years old, and she's in that phase where she's trying to figure out her purpose,
Yeah.
her meaning in life.
Yeah.
And oftentimes as adults, we forget.
Yeah.
We try and make it seem like it's for the kids, but we have to remember our own purpose. We get in the things of life and relationships and marriages and, family dynamics, and we forget about ourselves because we have to do so much instead of being everything that we were designed to be. So hot off the press, you got it first.
Yes.
I'll make sure I bring you a
Peter's
t-shirt.
perspective, we got it first, so.
It ties back to creativity, like you
Yeah.
said. I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
I'm a faster, I pray, I fast often.
Yeah.
And sometimes God just gives me these things. They just kind of fall out, they fall into my lap, and I grab them.
Yes.
I try and do as much as I can to empower and elevate others.
So let's go there. Empowering and elevating others. That's something that, again, I know that you are known. One, you're known for that here in Prince William County, and you're in different women's circles and groups and things like that. What is it that you want to see for us here in the county?
I think more connection.
More connection.
I think more connection because there's so many different groups of people. There's no one group over the other.
Yeah.
We can start with the church, really. There is no one group that's over the other if the mission is to elevate each other. Of course, God is the center, but you have people there. And the people that actually elevate them need to be right, need to be married to the purpose, to their purpose. And so for me, I think here in Prince William County, as we're celebrating Black History Month, understand that Black people matter too.
Yeah, yeah.
And that sounds cliche,
Sure.
but it's
But
real.
it's true. Yeah.
And why does that matter? Because in times in the world, even now, some people don't feel that we matter. If we talk about our Constitution, there are parts in there that say we are half of a person. We can talk about all types of things that are happening.